right here, top of the hour. Right now, let's head on out to Stephen A. Smith. He joins us now live from Los Angeles. Something we talked about just a second ago, the game to be played in Las Vegas in light of all that has happened there over the last week. How cathartic can sports be in a time like this?
Well, I think it could be very cathartic. I mean, the reality is that sports, even though it's a microcosm of society, it also serves as a reprieve from the things that ail us in everyday lives. When you go to the games and you see exceptional play and you see the exploits of tremendous athletes, it's a distraction from what ails you in your everyday lives. I mean, a lot of people go to work 9-to-5 jobs and, you know, they're pounding that pavement, doing what they can to provide and take care for their family and uplift their quality of life. And when a tragedy the likes of what we saw and heard about last week in Las Vegas takes place, you know, it just reminds us of our own mortality. It reminds us of the value of life. It reminds us of how we all need to come together, not just as Americans, but as human beings, wishing nothing but the very, very best for your fellow man and your fellow woman. And anytime you have an opportunity to watch sports and enjoy the exploits of professional athletes, it sort of serves to bring all of that together, because you look at sports and you view it as the gorgeous mosaic that it is. You see individuals of all races and ethnicities coming together with one common goal, as long as they're wearing the same uniform. And there's a lesson to peel from that. As American citizens, as citizens inside the United States of America, you know, we know what this country stands for, what we're supposed to represent collectively. And if we all hone in on that reality and embrace it with fervor the way that we should, then obviously we're going to be better served for it. And that's the kind of thing that sports can help facilitate. I don't think there's any question about it, because we've witnessed it time and time and time again throughout our history.
Very well said, Stephen A. And you are in L.A. Lonzo Ball will not play in the preseason game against the Kings in Las Vegas. But how is this Lonzo mania taking hold of that city, this franchise? It goes beyond him. It's obviously his dad. You got LaMelo. This is bigger than just one player.
Well, it's not bigger than one play at this particular moment in time, because it's Lonzo. LaMelo will come later. LaVar Ball, you know, for all his theatrics and everything, which I consider for the most part harmless. What this comes down to is that this guy was the #2 overall pick. If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you did have an opportunity to trade that #2 overall pick to acquire somebody the likes of a Paul George, who's a 27-year-old star in the National Basketball Association. You elected not to do so. Why? Because of the pressure that LaVar Ball placed on the Los Angeles Lakers, because he basically rallied the troops talking about his son in such glowing fashion. Combined with his play at UCLA, you found yourself fantasizing about Lonzo Ball and what he could mean in a Los Angeles Lakers uniform. He's a native of this area. You know, we understand what he brings to the table. And if you were Magic Johnson, you really felt a tremendous level of pressure to pick him in the draft, because he was not just an individual who could play, but he was somebody that had the potential to be box office. So if you were not Magic Johnson, let's say, for example, you were somebody like Jerry West, who's an experienced executive, tried and true, who's proven himself throughout history, then that would have been different. But because it's Magic Johnson, his first go-round as president of basketball operations, because he brought in a novice GM in Rob Pelinka, who was an agent and had never been a general manager in the National Basketball Association before, if you had passed up on somebody who is unquestionably going to be box office for the Los Angeles Lakers this year, you never know what kind of rippling effect that would have had. So the pressure was brought to bear. We know Lonzo could play. He can put the ball in the hole. He can get to the hole. He can pass. His basketball IQ is exceptional. His defense is poor. His jump shot is ugly. But nevertheless, he can play. And let's see what he does, because everybody's going to be watching the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers mania has definitely returned, because Lonzo Ball is in the house. We'll see whether or not he warrants that kind of attention.
What are fair expectations to put on him, given all of the hype and the position he's in?
Well, I think what's fair expectation is that I think it's fair to expect him to average about 8 to 10 assists per night. The ball is going to be in his hands primarily. You've got this kid Kuzma, who's an exceptional young scorer out of Utah. A lot of people are very, very high on him. They believe he might be the steal of the draft. You still got Brandon Ingram. You got Julius Randle. You got Larry Nance Jr. and others. You still got Clarkson on the squad. I don't expect them to make the playoffs, but I do expect them to win more than 30 games. If the ball is going to be in his hands and he's essentially the show, it's not beyond the pale to expect him to average about 8 to 10 assists a game, to average about 14 to 15 points a game, but also expect him to get schooled and annihilated by other competition. The individual that he would have been going against tonight in a preseason game, had he elected to play, is a guy by the name of De'Aaron Fox out of Kentucky, who dropped 39 on him and the UCLA Bruins in an NCAA tournament game. Lonzo Ball's defense is not something to brag about. You combine that with the other point guards in the Western Conference, the Steph Currys of the world, the Chris Pauls of the world, Aura James Harden, the Russell Westbrooks of the world, Damian Lillards of the world, who was just here at the Staples Center playing against the Clippers this afternoon. You take all of those guys into consideration, Lonzo Ball might get destroyed on the defensive end of the floor because these are some offensive juggernauts coming at him. But if he averages about 14 to 15 a game, limits those turnovers, puts in about 8 to 10 assists a game, and the Lakers improve, then I think that you're going to see people raving about him. That's what you can expect.
He got some triple doubles in the summer league. This is the NBA. It's a different kettle of fish, but I expect to probably see him do that a few times as well this season.